Welcome back, guys. In today's video, we are going to see top 20 question asked on Spring Data JPA. So here is the first question. What is Spring Data JPA? So basically, Spring Data JPA is a framework that simplifies database access using Java Persistence API. So it remove need to write repetitive DAO code. So that means you don't need to write a statement, prepare statement to access database. So based on what we are going to do, like get result set. So that we don't need to write here because it provide abstraction over the JPA. So it automatically generates SQL queries at runtime based on the method name and annotation. Here, if you see, we need to just extend JPA repositories, CRUD repositories to perform the CRUD operation. Then here next question is like, what is the difference between JPA, Spring and Spring Data JPA? So basically, JPA is the specification that define rules and annotation for object relational mapping. So JPA is a specification. Then Hibernate is a implementation of JPA. So internally, JPA uses Hibernate only. And Spring Data JPA is a higher level of abstraction that simplifies JPA usage by generating repositories implementation automatically. So on top of this JPA, they have developed the Spring Data JPA so that provides some abstraction over the JPAs. So JPA define what to do, Hibernate define how it is done, and Spring Data JPA reduces how much code you need to write. So here mostly you just need to call the predefined method. You don't need to write the your manual queries here. Then next question here is, what is JPA repositories? So if you see, JPA repository is a Spring Data interface that provide built-in CRUD operation. So JPA repositories provide CRUD operation like create, read, update, delete, along with advanced features such as pagination, sorting, batch processing, and flushing. So these advanced operation also provided by JPA repositories. As compared to CRUD repositories, these are the extra operation provided by JPA repositories. So here, if you see, we can use page interface here. Then we can find and we can provide the pagination based on the interfaces provided. Here, if you see use case for this, showing paginated employee record in the admin dashboard. So whenever you want to show paginated record, then that time you can use these JPA repositories. And then next question here is difference between CRUD repositories and JPA repositories. So difference is simple. JPA repositories provide extra feature like pagination, sorting, batch delete, and flush operation. Whereas CRUD repository, you can perform only create, read, update, delete this operation. So in enterprises application that need pagination and sorting. So whenever you're developing enterprise application, at that time you need to use JPA repositories only because it provides some additional functionality. Then next question here is, what is entity? So entity mark Java class as a persistent entity. So Hibernate scan entity classes at application startup and map them to the database. So based on the this annotation at the rate entity Hibernate scan this entity class at application startup and it map to the database table. So here is some rule for a entity. Entity must have no argument constructor. So basically it is by default provided by Java. A primary key must have and a non-final class. So these are the requirement for the entity class. So here is how we can create entity class. Public class over the class we need to add this annotation at the rate entity. Here use case if you see mapping Java domain objects directly to the relational database. Then here next question is, what is ID and generated value? So at the rate ID define the primary key of an entity. So when you use this ID at the rate over column name, it will act as a primary key in the database. Then at the rate generated value specifies how the primary key value is generated automatically. So here are the some strategies that we're going to use: identity, sequence, auto, and table. So remember this. Suppose you want automatically generated, at that time you use auto identity. You can use sequence. Suppose you want to generate sequence like ABC 1 2 3. At that time, you can use sequence. So these are the use cases for the at generated value. Then next question here is what is page type lazy and page type eager? So eager page loads related entity immediately with parent entity. What it will do? It will load immediately the parent entities. Lazy fetch load related entities only then are accessed. Whenever you have access, then only lazy will load that entities. Lazy fetching improve performance and reduces memory usage. So here are the use case for this. Suppose you want performance your application, you can use the lazy loading. Then loading department details only when they are actually required for an employee. Use case we can see. Then next is here what is the one to many and many to one annotation. So these are also important question. This annotation defines relationship between entities. Suppose you have department here. If you see many to one, we have use annotation over this. So multiple employees belonging to the one department. So one department can have many employees. That's why we have used many employees, one department, many to one. One to many represents one entity linked to multiple child entities. So this is the one to one and one to many annotation. And then what is join column? So join column define the foreign key column in the database. It provides control over column name, nullability, and constraint. So what it does, it define the foreign key column in the database. When you use join column, so you can mention the department ID. Suppose you have employee and department table. From the department table, you have department ID that you want to mention as a foreign key in the primary table. So what you will do, you will use just this at the rate join column over the department ID table in the employee entity. So it will mark it as a foreign column. Then next here is what is transactional. So transactional define transactional boundaries. All database operation inside transactional method either complete successfully or roll back together. So transaction means when we use this at the rate transactional, either your payment, suppose you are doing payment to your friend. So at that time what happen? Your payment is done. So money is deducted from your account and it should be credited into the your friend's accounts. Either it is rollback properly so that your money will not be deducted from your account. That is at the what is transactional annotation. Use case here if you see saving order and payment information in a single transaction. So that's why we use at the rate transactional. So whenever you are doing any database operation, payment processing, at that time you can use transactional. So for this, we have created separate videos on our channel. You can go and watch that videos as well. Then what is JPQL? So JPQL is a Java persistence query language, is an object-oriented query language that operates on entities and their attributes instead of database table and column. So it operates on the entities. Suppose you have right employee entity in that, based on that employee, it is we can create this JPQL. So select E from employee E where E dot salary is greater than 50,000. So here directly we are using our entity. We are not writing any SQL queries. So use case here you are writing database independent queries. So when you can directly write database independent queries with the help of JPQL. Then next question is what is difference between JPQL and native queries? So JPQL works with entity names and feed and database independent. So it is database independent and it works with entity name and feed. So native query uses database specific SQL syntax, native queries. So like we can write at the rate query and in that we can write the queries. So that is the difference between JPQL and native queries. Then next question here is what is query annotation? So here we have query annotation as well. So query allows writing custom JPQL and native SQL queries inside repository interface. So inside repository interface, suppose you want to fetch something from the database. At that time, what we will do, when your JPQL not work, at that time you can write the custom queries like this. Query select star from employee where department equal to department name. Then queries that are too complex for derived query method use case is here given. What is pagination in the Spring Data JPA? So pagination divide large result set into smaller pages. It improve performance and prevent loading large amounts of data into the memory at once. So basically pagination or we can use like only loading some specific data. For that purpose, we can use pagination in Spring Data JPA. How we can use that? There are some interfaces provided by pagination page interfaces that we can use. So use case here if displaying large data set page by page in UI screen. At that time, we can use pagination in Spring Data JPA. Next question is what is sorting in Spring Data JPA? So sorting allows ordering query result using one or more fields. We can do this sort dot by salary dot descending. So sorting use case here if you see sorting employees record by salary or name. That is sorting. And then what is dirty checking? So dirty checking is a mechanism where Hibernate automatically detects changes made to manage entities. Dirty checking, what is dirty checking? Is mechanism where Hibernate automatically detects changes made by managed entities. When a transaction commit, Hibernate update only the modified field without explicitly calling save method. So here is the when transaction commit, Hibernate update only the modified fields without explicitly calling save method. So that is the dirty checking. Update entity feed inside a transactional service method use case here if you see updating entity feed using inside transactional service method. Then next question here is what is n plus 1 select problem. So n plus 1 select problem occur when one query fetch parent entities and additional query fetch each child entity individually. At that time we will get the n plus 1 query select problem. So this lead to the performance degradation. So use case here if you see fetching department and their employees without optimize fetching. And then next question, what is cascade? What are the cascade types? So cascade define how operation propagate from parent entities to entities. So common cascade type here given persist, merge, remove, and all. So this cascade type defines operation propagate from parent entities to the child entities. Then next question is what is entity graph? So entity graph allows defining phase strategies dynamically at query level. Here if you see entity graph attribute paths. So what it does, it phase strategies dynamically at query level. Then next question here is why does Spring Data JPA return optional? So optional helps to avoid null related issues. So in Java 9 onwards, they have provided optional. So it forces explicitly handling of missing data and improve code safety. So what it will help? It will help to explicitly handle missing data and improve code safety. So safely fetching record without causing null pointer exception. To safely fetch data without causing null pointer exception, we can use this. That's all from this video, guys. I hope you understand this all 20 questions. If you have any question, please do comment and please do like, share, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.